Okay, so this article from Fortune is titled The Baby Boomer Bump: How the Richest Retiring Generation We've Ever Had is Keeping the Economy Afloat. It's so wild. I am going to do that article, but I do want to remind us all that Fortune and other news publications were also just talking about the silver tsunami that's about to hit millions of baby boomers, and that these baby boomers are about to be struggling to get housing and nursing homes and all of that. So I'm just bringing that back, and this is straight out of Fortune. So I'm just saying. Let's get back to the article at hand, though. Baby boomers, members of the wealthiest generation in history, are beginning to retire in record numbers. Though much has been made about the effect of that on workplaces, its effect on the economy could be even more profound. Despite years of speculation over the next possible recession, the U.S. has avoided a slowdown largely due to consumer spending, and that's being driven by older, wealthier Americans and their leisure activities. Ed Yardini, Ed Yardini, Chief Investment Strategist of Yardini Research. The baby boom generation has started to retire with a record 76 trillion in net worth. They are spending on restaurants, cruises, traveling, and healthcare. All these service industries have been expanding their payrolls, thus boosting real incomes and fueling more spending. Yardini isn't the first to note that the baby boomer bump, and he's made the point before. The baby boom generation has started to retire with a record 76 trillion in net worth. Yardini writes, they are spending on restaurants, cruises, traveling, and healthcare. All these service industries have been expanding their payrolls, thus boosting real incomes and fueling more spending. Yardini isn't the first to know the baby boomer bump, and he's made the point before. Older Americans have benefited from outsized gains in the stock and housing markets since the start of the pandemic, allowing them to spend more and more. In fact, Americans 65 or older accounted for around 22% of consumer spending in 2022, according to the Labor Department, the highest share on record. Millennials, on the other hand, are much more likely to be spending their money on necessities like housing and childcare, according to data from Bank of America. As boomers have accrued more wealth, they've also been less impacted, generally speaking, by economic factors that are curbing spending for younger generations, such as the Fed Reserve's interest rate campaign. Most have locked in their mortgage interest rate or paid off their home completely and aren't looking to make other purchases that require borrowing. Rather, they are spending in the categories Yardini noted, like travel and entertainment. Boomers also tend to carry less consumer debt and aren't burdened with student loan repayments. It really does sound like we shouldn't be worried about the silver tsunami then. It sounds like the boomers have enough money to pay for everything that they need as far as housing and the medical field and all of that. Some of the growth in spending can also be attributed to the 8.7 cost of living increase in boomers' Social Security checks, the largest bump in 40 years. Not all gains are universal, of course, and not all older Americans are able to spend freely, especially those living on a fixed income. But many have been able to take advantage of the significant gains in their stock portfolios as the market has hit record high after record high over the past few years. Research from Visa shows stock market wealth boosts discretionary spending, and those aged 55 and older hold the vast majority of all household wealth in the country, around 75%. The baby boomers are the richest retiring generation we've ever had, Yardini has said previously. Not everybody is well off, but we've never had a retiring generation with this much wealth. That's one of the major reasons why the economy is strong. I'm not sure how to take all of this, but I do want you guys to go ahead and weigh in and let me know what you think about that article. Now I want to talk about this article from Fortune. Gen Z really are the hardest to work with. Even managers of their own generation say they're difficult. So we got the baby boomers retiring, and we got Gen Z, who the oldest in their cohort is like 27. So let's talk about this. Let's just segue right on into it. It's no secret that Gen Z often gets flack for, in the words of Sister Act star Whoopi Goldberg, not busting their behinds at work, quite like previous generations did. Earlier this year, the Oscar-winning actress Jodie Foster complained that Gen Zers don't show up to work until 10:30 a.m., An MIT interviewer blasted the generation for always being late. And just last month, one CEO vented his gripe with Gen Z when one young job candidate refused to do a 90-minute task because it looked like a lot of work. But it's not just Gen Xers and baby boomers who have taken stock of how different, or rather difficult, the youngest generation of workers are. Even now, Gen Z hiring managers are complaining about their own generation's work style. Resume Genius asked 625 US hiring managers which generation is the most challenging to work with, and 45% pointed to Gen Z. What's more, 50% of Gen Z hiring managers admitted that their own generation is the most difficult to manage. Perhaps surprisingly, baby boomers who have been caught in their fair share of criticism too for not being in touch with today's workers after buying McMansions in the suburbs on one wage and then refusing to retire were voted as the easiest to manage. However, being easy to work with isn't making the oldest generations of workers more hireable. In fact, baby boomers are the last people employers expect to hire right now. While just 4% of the hiring managers surveyed expect to hire baby boomers in the year ahead, a third admitted they will probably end up hiring Gen Zers. Despite being the most different generation to work with, Gen Z are the second most likely to be hired job candidate of choice. The most popular, their slightly more seasoned millennial peers at 45%. In comparison, only 14% of the hiring managers surveyed expect to hire Gen X workers in the year ahead. Workers get easier to manage with age. Yes, also because we mature with age as well. The survey didn't delve into why Gen Z workers are more challenging to work with than their peers, but it's hard to ignore the fact that the latest cohort of workers came of age during the pandemic. Not only did Gen Z miss out on major milestone college experiences from frat parties to literally tossing their graduation caps in the air, but they also didn't get to taste the world of work through summer internships before diving into the job market. It's why employers are now giving graduates extra training to get them up to speed. Take the world's big four consulting firms, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, and EY, are all offering incoming junior hires soft skills training, including lessons on how to speak up in meetings. It's wholly understandable that students who missed out on face-to-face activities during COVID may now be stronger in certain fields, such as working independently, and less confident in others, such as presentations to groups, said Ian Elliott, the Chief People Officer at PwC in the UK. Plus, COVID-19 isn't entirely to blame for management's struggle with Gen Z, as Resume Genius survey suggests. Workers get easier to manage with age. While 45% of those surveyed describe Gen Z as the most challenging to work with, this dropped to 26% for millennials, 13% for Gen Z, and 9% for baby boomers. In the end, being difficult is probably just another rite of passage. After all, millennials will remember being labeled work-shy snowflakes before climbing the corporate ranks into management and putting the heat on Gen Z. But instead of trying to wrestle with making the youngest generation of workers easier to manage, research authors suggest businesses bend to Gen Z. Gen Z has already shaken things up, but they're not here to break things. They bring a unique blend of talent and bold ideas that can rejuvenate any workforce. Jeffrey Scott, senior hiring manager at Resume Genius, wrote, for example, according to the research, Gen Z managers are most likely to make hiring decisions based on what candidates put down as their hobbies and interests on their CV over professional experience. Now, this seems to just be kind of nitpicking. I mean, the oldest of Gen Z is 27. These are basically very, very new kind of kids. I know 18 to 27 is not a kid, but they have not had the life experience to make them just to seem grown up and mature. We all mature as we get, well, we should mature as we have some life experience. So give these kids a chance. Anyways, I want to hear what you guys think about this one. Go ahead, jump in, like, comment, share. how the right wingers and Christofacists are coming for books with the book bannings, and then likewise coming for teachers and librarians has been egregious. But their game plan has been very, very strategic, and it all plays hand in hand with what is going on in the political climate, and it goes hand in hand with Project 2024. Now, we have talked about book bannings before on my pages, and this is really what Christofascism is. They really want to control what information is out there. They do not want parents and children having the opportunity to even open these books. It is wild. So this is a blog post. It's from Book Censorship News. And this is what it says. Here's where library workers are prohibited from their own professional organization. Book Censorship News. This is from last week. What begins at the local level moves to the regional level, then on to state level where it comes to book bans. School book bans shift to public library book bans, despite claims made otherwise by those book banners. And then those bans find their way into city or county level. In too many cases over the last 4 years, those city or county level issues bubble to the state level, leading to legislation that does precisely the opposite of what local level regression seeks. Local control is ceded to the state or country. This perspective is crucial for the context as to why, in 2024, several states proposed legislation that would ban affiliation with the largest professional organization for library workers, the American Library Association. Data shows that librarians are ranked among the most trustworthy professions by parents. Unfortunately, this trust is being tested and questioned. Library workers are seeing their ability to be affiliated with their professional organization challenged. This is fueled by misinformation peddled by the far right, who see the ALA as some kind of machine that encourages librarians to fill their shelves with corn, obscenity, and inappropriate material, as well as one that trains library workers how to undermine parents through diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. As outrageous as that sentence sounds, do we see the same kinds of arguments lodged at, say, police professional organizations, despite the fact that they, too, seek to educate law enforcement officers about diversity, equity, inclusion, social emotional learning, and so forth? It underscores what these book bans are actually about. It's not the books. It's about eliminating anything outside the far-right Christian agenda from American democracy. So when the book bans themselves are not enough to get the job done, ALA is a prime next target. By demonizing a professional organization, these individuals and groups are able to further damage the actual professionalization of the field, one that goes back to 1876. This affiliation is harmful to the libraries themselves, too, as the ALA provides grants and projects that are available only to those who are affiliated with the groups, something pretty standard across all professional organizations, as membership dues help fund these things. ALA also helps libraries follow policies, procedures, and standards to ensure that these institutions are strong stewards of public money, that they follow ethical and legal guidelines, and that they actually serve the whole community. ALA lobbies on behalf of its members too, ensuring that libraries are being funded and respected as one of the few democratic institutions in America. As bills seek to ban or revoke access to the ALA, they are only damaging themselves, which is, of course, the end goal. A couple of weeks ago, I rounded up the state level legislation that aimed to criminalize library workers. This week, I'm highlighting the 2024 state legislative bills that aim to ban library worker affiliation with the American Library Association and the associated punishment. It is very important to note that these bills use language that many then weaponize against library workers and those reporting on these dangerous censorships happening in libraries. These bills specifically spell out that taxpayer money cannot be used to pay for affiliation. The problem is that library workers are themselves underpaid. And one of the few perks of working in the libraries is that membership into the professional organization is paid for by these institutions. Not to mention, these bills make it illegal for the libraries themselves to affiliate, which begs the question of then who would pay for it if not the taxpayers already funding the library? This kind of, well, actually, of professional affiliation does not happen to other professions. It also deeply and purposely misses the point. So that is how the author ends this article. But if you go into this article, if you look it up, you can look it up by this title. You can click on the hyperlinks towards the end where you can look up the legislation itself that she is talking about. This just needs to be on your radar because of all the book bannings that we were seeing where they were hyper focused on the books. They are coming for the librarians. They're coming for the teachers that teach from these books. It is all a concerted effort to limit freedom of speech and, limit people from even having choices. They talk about freedoms, but they only want the freedoms that they deem appropriate because they are Christofacists. They really want a theocracy based on their beliefs. F your beliefs. Jump in the conversation. Let me know what you think. If you made it this far and you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit the follow button. Don't forget to like, comment, share.